Welcome back. This is part 4 of my F-16 Warbird. What you see here, these are the wing pylons that I've got that I rated from several different kits. This, what I'm showing you right here, came from the actual F-16. I cut those off. That way I could modify them to make some extra pylons. The ones you see on the bottom, those came from a Warthog. I cut those in half. I'm going to glue those on top of these pylons. That way I can hold some Sidewinder missiles. You see me gluing those on right here. We're going to put those onto the model a little bit later. Here is the other one that I'm gluing on. Make sure you kind of get them in the right spot. They're not exactly accurate, but it was the best I could do. Here I had to cut the decal away and scrape away the paint. That way I could adhere that pylon to that. There are 3 where they all go. You can see how they all go there. I'm going to put this on. This is where that spot goes. The pylons are actually all gray because the Thunderbirds are white, but they don't have missile rails on them. So when you put the missile rails on, they actually just come from armed F-16s already, so they're going to be gray. So I'm just painting the other side. As you can see, these are gray. I have the cylinders that were painted silver there on the wheel wells. Right here I am painting the wheels. These all go a nice black color, as you can see here. Just give those a couple of coats and make them look nice and pretty. Give them several passes with the airbrush. Little light on there. Here's the other side. You know, just when they're taped down, you got to turn them around. Make sure you get them really good with the paint. What we're going to do next, after we have these all painted, we're going to paint the part of the cockpit that I didn't get early on when I was doing the model, because this is the last bit of painting that I have to do. So here is the cockpit. We're going real lightly on this at first. I initially had painted some of the insides of that, but then I repainted those white because it didn't look good with the canopy. So here I'm painting the rest of this black. It's a little light there. Make it a little bit darker, and that'll be complete. This is what it looks like, the final coat of that. This is the cockpit, as you can see. I am now poking some holes where they used to be that I had filled in. This is where I'm going to put the ECM pod, and I used part of the gas tank for that, and you'll see me cutting that open later on. Here I am going through and just simply painting the end of the jet exhaust. As you know, I do it a little bit differently than everybody else. I just take some airbrush material and actually paint it on. I don't know why I do it. I just like it a little bit better. It gave it a nice rough look too. This is the top, which needs to go insignia red to match the rest of the decal. So find yourself some paint and you paint that. There are a couple of other spots. You'll see that antenna right there. This right here, that little wing antenna, whatever that is. This is where I had to scrape away some air bubbles, so I figure I'll just paint that too rather than re-decal everything. It was a lot easier. It looks okay in the final product of the model. I'm happy with it. These are where the lights are on the side. You'll notice those in pictures of the Warbird. Be careful, don't get paint everywhere because it's bad. And this is what I was talking about earlier, that fuel tank that came with the F-16. I'm cutting this pylon off that holds it on, and I'm going to use that for the ECM pod. So just work your way through it. You'll cut through, and there will be a little bit of leftover slag on there. Remove all that slag. That'll get painted gray, and we can mount the ECM pod to that. This does get mounted right here where those holes were that I was telling you I poked earlier. I've already got some glue in there. So we're just going to press this down, and we're going to make sure it's firm and secure. Here is the ECM pod. I already painted it. Just going to put some decals on it. This ECM pod came from Revell's A10 Warthog. So just put the decals on. There really aren't a lot of clear pictures of it on the actual Thunderbird Warbird, but I did find a few, so this is what I'm going by. Actually, I already put the diamond on there earlier, and this is the paint scheme for it. There's a little paint chip. I left it. I was happy with it. Put a little bit of glue right here. This is the inside of the wheels. Press down the hubs nice and firm. We've got 2 more wheels to do. This one I put the glue on the inside of that wheel. Just take your hub, press it in there nice and firm. You see the other one was already done at the bottom. Here is the wheel well cover. There are certain spots it has to go in, so pay attention to where they go. Also need to make sure when you're putting this on that it goes in the right spot because it's angled, and you want to make sure that angle is where it's supposed to go on the model, because you see at the top it's also angled as well. Put this one in. This is the other side. If you need to hold it down, use something. I used a paintbrush to hold it down. Make sure the paint isn't on the wheels right here. When you put that down with the cement, just press the wheels on to the glue. That's what I did here. Didn't take much pressure. This is one of the pylons I'm putting on. Nothing goes on this pylon, so I just mounted it right to the thing. Here we have the front wheel. You can see right there where I'm putting this, they are little inserts for the actual wheels to go into, or the flap I should say, the wheel cover. So put that in there. Here I'm putting on the front wheel. Just press that in. I already put some glue on there. And I'm going to show you right now a better shot of that flap and the wheel cover. So here I already have that installed. That was for the ECM pod. Now I'm putting the ECM pod on. Press it down, make it firm. Here we're doing another missile rail. This is actually going to be the bombs from the Corsair kit. So the bombs came from the Warthog, and the rails came from a Corsair kit that I had also from Revell. I only put 2 bombs on each one. I will add each bomb, the third bomb on each one later on. It made it easier for me to install with less weight. This is going to be a Sidewinder rail. Those were the ones I made earlier in the video that you saw. Put one on there and put the other on the other side. These also got painted a nice light gray color because, as I said earlier, that's what the F-16s actually use, and they don't have Thunderbird colors for those. This one I put glue onto the actual bomb, and this one I'm putting it onto the actual rail that is supposed to be on. 2 different ways you can do that. Figure out which one you like best. Each way works for me. You may have to hold these in place when you're doing that because sometimes they tend to wiggle off. This is where a Sidewinder is going to go. It aligns with those notches right there. Some missiles actually already have those grooves. These ones were triangled, and you've seen those on some models, I'm sure. So it was a little hard to get on. Make sure you do scrape your paint away. Hold it down. This is the one that's on the side. As I said, I didn't want to cut up another F-16 to get those actual pylons, so I just had made some from previous ones. Here's the other wing that we're putting these on. Glue those in. As I said, you may have to hold them in place. This is the very front antenna. That's painted red. Stick that on. Really easy. You just make sure that there's no glue and any paint inside of the hole there. Using some Elmer's glue right here, what we're going to do is just put a little bit of this right there on the cockpit. We're going to grab our clear shield, and of course the glue won't frost with Elmer's. Press it down, make sure it's in place. And that's what it looks like when that's glued down. Here is our canopy. Remember, put a little bit of glue as well, Elmer's, on the inside of that so we don't frost our canopy. It should stay fairly well. You also eliminate you having to scrape away any paint from this. Get both sides of that. You can even put some on the back tip if you want. Just press it down. Once the canopy is on, your model, believe it or not, will actually start laying flat. There's some gun residue that I added to this because you'll see that on some pictures. I am putting on the decals of the pilot. This is on the right side of the plane, I guess you could say, if you're looking out. I wasn't sure if that was the name on the actual plane because I never had any pictures of that side. I only had it of this side that you see here me doing. So here it is, Major BJ Java. This is the decal and this is the model. Hope you enjoyed it. Here it is. This is the final model. We finally completed it. It took long enough. I'm sorry about that, but as you know, it's just a hobby, so it's not important when we get it done, as long as it looks somewhat decent, because for me, somewhat decent is good enough. I'm not a perfectionist. This is the Warbird. It's got all its armor on there. Here are the stickers on the side right there. We got the Warbird right there, and over on the canopy we have the pilot's name. That's the name that was on the plane, so that's what I went with. I don't know what was on the opposite side because I only had one angle of it. We've got a little bit of gun residue that you can see in some pictures. This is all the armor, at least in some pictures I could find. We had 2 Sidewinders. The ECM Pod. Also, you'll notice that the pylons on these are not painted white. They are gray because that's the color they go on the F-16 when you're building the model. In order to build this, I had to raid 2 other kits from Revell. One was the A-10 Warthog and the other was the Corsair plane. And what I got off of the Warthog, I got all the bombs off of those, and I got the ECM pod off of that. From the Thunderbird kit, I took from the fuel tank this piece right here, cut that off. I took from the Corsair kit these right here, the pylons. I modified those a little bit. And also right here, those came from the F-16 kit as well. I modified those, cut off some of the pylons on there, added those pylons right here, and used some other pieces which you see on the side right here that I cut in half, which also came from the Warthog. That way I could make these, which are basically just pylons that go along for these rails, but I didn't have any of those and I didn't feel like buying an F-16 and cutting that up, so I'd rather just make that. Looks good. We've got all the armor on there. This is the Air Force F-16 Thunderbird. I hope you enjoy watching the video, and I hope you enjoy doing the model. And if you want to make the regular Thunderbird, go ahead. This is how I made mine. For our next video, always subscribe. That way you get the latest videos that we do. Don't forget to comment. I always respond to comments, especially when people put them on there. And give us a bunch of likes. We really appreciate it.